think in that era, it made a lot of sense for the founders to adopt what they did, even as irrational as it seems now and as anti-democratic as it seems. There are three basic reasons. One is that just they didn't think that citizens would have the informational capacity to deal with direct elections. The U.S. At that point was a vast territory, and the idea that you would have single candidates that would be known to all citizens throughout the land, in some sense, is unfathomable. They expected, the founders, that is, very regional candidates that would be known to certain citizens, not others. And so the idea of a national election just didn't seem possible in that sense. The second reason is that the founders didn't think that the national government would actually have the apparatus to run elections, to set up comparable elections in which citizens within across all the states had the same set of rights and had the same voting power. In some sense, is very difficult. And you would have expected, some states to have different qualifications for voting than other states, and that would reduce one state's power vis-a-vis the other. And to set up a national apparatus that standardized all those things seemed very difficult. A third reason, and probably the most important reason, given the tenor of the negotiations in Philadelphia, had to do with slavery. There's no doubt that compared to the Electoral College system, slave states would have had much less power in a direct election system. The way the Electoral College turned out, of course, as we know, electors were determined by the same 3/5 formula that was used to apportion representatives to the lower house. And if that same system were in effect, slave states would have a little bit more power than they would in a direct election system in which slaves were not voting, and power was diminished a little bit. And so when Madison pointed that out to some of the Southerners, that the system wouldn't favor them, he very quickly got them on his side in terms of adopting the Electoral College. I think there are a couple reasons why the Electoral College is still around. I mean, in every single political science class and every discussion in political circles, citizens are just appalled at the idea that we don't have direct elections. But it makes some sense if you think about what needs to take place in order to get rid of the Electoral College. You obviously have to amend the Constitution, and that itself is incredibly difficult for any issue. It's a tortuous amendment process, especially if we compare it to other countries, in which amendment and revision is fairly easy. And in a number of countries, you'll see an amendment to the Constitution almost every year or so. Obviously, we've had very few. And very basic amendments like the Equal Rights Amendment, something you'd think would have gotten through very quickly, has not. So it's very difficult. Add to that the idea that some states are very much vested in the idea of Electoral College system. So battleground states, for example, love the idea that all the immediate attention is on those states during the election. I don't think they would be very quick to vote for any amendment that would get rid of the Electoral College. Citizens, strangely enough, are probably attached to that system. As much belly aching and as much criticism as we hear about the Electoral College system, I think citizens are attached to it, like they are, of course, about many aspects of the U.S. Constitution. It's been around 200 years. It's a symbol of our nation. The idea that we'd get rid of a major aspect of Article 2, I think would probably be unsettling to a lot of people. And I think they like the idea of some continuity across all these presidential elections. And so I think that would be a tough sell in some sense for the American people.